Hello!
Hi!
Welcome to this extra special part at the end of episode 6.
This is crazy town, my dude. You have no idea. I just read the title. of your things.
This is, like...
This is insane.
So what you've maybe missed if you've only been following the playthrough is that, I have been
Insanity is what you've missed,
yeah,
apparently.
I have been participating in the Rekindlement.org podcasts, which have been great fun. I ran one of them, maybe two of them. We're about to do a second one tomorrow.
It's in the cat box, we don't know yet.
But for these podcasts, I've been setting myself the task of coming up with a ludicrous theory for every episode. The first one, which we covered in episode 5, was the whole meta theory about how Battler's still alive and writing, and we covered that in the playthrough, not in a lot of depth and not with a lot of finality, because it was a lot of just throwing shit and seeing what sticks.
Yep, that's what I do.
And if you've also gone back and watched the episode 3 second, like the post-edit recap, you'll also have seen like some of the beginnings of that and talking about how episode 3 is like an absolute goldmine for finding hints for what I think this theory is.
Yep.
But then episode 6 came around, and after saying that Battler had been the author, as you probably saw at the beginning of episode 6,
we're presented with an author.
Hi,
Which is great. Which is great, by the way. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Congratulations on figuring out that those were forgeries. Very, very well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Hachijo Toya is the forger. This lovely lady here, also known as Featherin.
Yeah, like, goodness me.
Yeah.
What a emotional roller coaster that was. I'll put it like a title card up or whatever so you can go back and watch that bit. I won't put a clip here because it goes on for 15 fucking minutes of me freaking out.
Yep. It was pretty good.
But it was kind of wild seeing this character appear. And the main thing that flipped me round and around was, why the hell is Toya writing?
Oh. You tell me.
So, I set myself the task of figuring out why. And what I am about to switch you to...
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Is why.
Are you gonna really open that other... Oh, God. Okay.
Here we go.
There it is.
So let's zoom in on this.
The CP6 edition.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't read all this. I've been discussing this with you, but I haven't read all this. So yeah.
There it is.
Hachijo wants to marry Battler. That makes sense to me.
Basically, the foundation of this, as I said back when Toya first appeared, is that there is so much foreshadowing for my claim of Battler being the author to still exist with the like male assistant and the dude who appeared at the convention. Like, there's a whole bunch of foreshadowing there, and there's also a whole bunch of stuff in episodes 3 and 4 that I think foreshadows it still being Battler.
Okay.
That's a whole nother deal, and I'm not going to worry about it too much because it's kind of just the premise of this one.
Sure. Just go rewatch that bit where he forgets his name. Just go.
Yeah. But, like, whew.
Yeah.
The thing that killed me in episode 6 is when we got to the wedding the second time, because I'd kind of forgotten about it when we got to it after the, like, rewind or whatever. Was, what the hell is the wedding all about? Like, if Hachijo was writing this, why is it a wedding that she chooses to have Erika unite with Battler with? It's like, marriage to the Game Master has not been set up in any way to be significant to the game board.
Maybe. Who knows? It's the Court of High Heaven junk.
Yeah, like, there is room and foreshadowing for it to have existed with whole things like, you know, Beatrice seeking the love of Battler and culprit theories and whatnot.
Yep.
But the choice of a wedding was very explicit and very confusing to me. So I basically went in and said, alright, why is this here? And then it occurred to me that the entire theme of episode 6 was like lost, shattered, broken, and betrayed love.
Yep.
And I was like, alright. As you can
Only
see
in EP6, none of that in any other episode.
Well, I know, but like, episode 6 hammers it home. It even says in episode 6 that the theme of this episode is this. Like, Angie just says that.
It's true.
In the episode.
It's true.
And I basically said that if we took Erika to be a construct of Hachijo, assuming that, like, she wrote episodes 5 and 6, because that's when we get a few stylistic changes, it would make sense that the author was writing this because and wrote themselves into it for the first time because this is what mattered to them. This is why they're involved with the story. So some of the stylistic changes, just to go into that. Oops, I have clicked away.
No, shout out to Mimsy.
But one of the stylistic choices that I kind of noticed, and I'll have to actually dig through my own notes here to find it. But
What are you looking for?
there are a whole bunch of things like, basically how episode 5 and 6 are the only ones that begin with, like, a flashback. And, you know, that's, like, not something that's happened really before. You know, we kind of flash back a bit to, flash forward a bit to Angie in episode 4.
I was just about to say, yeah.
But
It's at the end.
the structure of episodes 5 and 6 is the end happens at the beginning, and then we see how we got there.
Yep.
And that is, so far, contained only to episodes 5 and 6, when Erica is there. And also in the tips menu for episode 6, which I will bring us back to now.
Oh god, too many screens. Too many screens.
In Erica's tip, when you execute her, it says that she was brought there by forgers, basically. And they include her in their illusion of the witch. So it would make sense to me that the author that we're attributing Erica to is Hachijo, and she wrote 5 and 6, and that's why Erica is a character in those two, and seems to disappear at the end of episode 6. Like, so that's where that all comes from. But basically, what I went through, and I lined up that if we basically took that the marriage is there because it's significant to Hachijo, she wrote episodes 5 and 6, and that Battler is in fact alive and the author of the other forgeries that we've seen, how does this relationship work? So I went through and I lined up every love trial that we have in episode 6 and said, how could this apply to Hachijo if I'm saying that she wants to marry Battler or is in love with Battler in, like, his new self, which was kind of like part of the meta theory that I was theorizing back in episode 5. So I spoke about how, like, you know, Hachijo is, like, maybe helping Battler write out these stories, much like Ava was helping George, you know, work up towards leading a good life. How, Kyrie is envious of whenever she sees Battler because she's reminded of Asamu's child. And how that would be like, you know, Hachijo always reminded that Battler, you know, originally loved Beatrice, supposedly. And then, you know, for Rosa, it's, the fact that, like, how Rosa had to lead her life alone after her husband left her would be similar to how, like, you know, now Hachijo is having to go about and write episode 5 and 6 by herself. That's why Eric is brought into the story. That's why the structure changes. Zephyr and Furfur are talking about, like, different identities and switching them around and how there's a conflict between identity and Battler and also with Hachijo and Featherin. And then going right back to the start with Beatrice where, you know, Beatrice supposedly through episodes 1, 2, and kind of by extension the rest of them, was trying to get Battler to remember her, as we kind of like saw with the whole rooftop shouting down from scene at the end of episode 4. And that would be like Hachijo basically trying to get Battler to see, like, in her future self there is value, and maybe that's why I was saying Battler discovers the truth at the end of episode 5. It's because Hachijo was, like, writing all of episode 5 with the perspective that she thought she understood who the culprit was, but then when she got to the end of episode 5 was like, oh, shit, I fucked up. And that's why in episode 5, the culprit for the other 5 games isn't necessary. That's why Erica ignores evidence that theoretically should be there. That's why we're able to see Shannon and Cannon in the room at the same time from Battler's perspective, because all of these things, while they still work within the rules of the games and the theory culprit that we have, they're not necessary because the author doesn't understand them. And then in contrast, in episode 6, they are the only thing that works. So I think that if we do take the whole authorship theory and the significance of why Hachijo's writing, I think that when Battler understands at the end of episode 5, it is actually Hachijo going like, I see the truth that you, author Battler, have reached.
Right, so you're thinking that there's this author battler, and then there's Sachijo.
Yes.
And that battler or not battler reached. When did that character reach the truth? Do you think before writing any of these stories, or what point does that happen?
I think
because you're saying that battler in episode 5 and 6 is more of a substitute for Hachijo.
I think, truth be told, it's probably the end of episode 3 when Battler is told, like, not to listen, not to look, as Beatrice denies herself, is probably significant of Battler at some point in his past learning the truth from Beatrice, but, like, trying to keep her alive as the witch, and that's why maybe he's writing. I don't know specifically when, I can't pin it on a timeline, but the fact that episode 3 and 4 work with the culprit theory cleanly, that we kind of had confirmed by episode 6, I think that it is reasonable to say that the author of episode 3 and 4 understood the quote-unquote truth.
Yeah, I mean, the person who's writing all of the episodes has to, on some level, understand the truth of the tales. Yeah. They have to understand that there is a culprit hiding behind the scenes. And they also have to some extent, understand Beatrice's heart. Which is first displayed in episode 3, which is, that's a whole scene.
That is
a scene to go. How is that going through the second time? How'd you feel about it? He was dismissive as the first time, because I'll be honest, that kind of hurt me a little bit. I know we're not in the EP3 recap anymore, but like, Jesus. You were like, oh, so much out of it. I was like, it's literally, she's a personification of the rules of the game, and it's a golden heart, and she can't die because she is the game.
I mean, I got it.
That's the whole point.
I got it in editing, but, like, I didn't understand any of that back when we actually recorded it.
I know.
But then the whole other thing, is, talking about, like, how episode 6 very clearly parallels, Kinzo's madness, but portrays it through Battler. It is both kind of portraying understanding of where the game came from, but also perhaps if we say that it's like Hachijo almost warning, the kind of madness that Battler would sink to if he would to try and actually revive Beatrice, and the like eternal torture that he ends up putting himself to do so. And then at the same time, there's also this whole moment where Erica at the end is like, "Oh, I see. I've lost. I'm the bad guy."
Erica's great. I mean, I would argue that she understood that the entire time, but that's...
I think so, but I think the moment of realization is significant.
Sure.
Like, there wouldn't be a reason to make a moment out of it otherwise. And I think it's probably significant of Hachijo basically being like, alright, I can't win this fight. Even in my own writing, Battler, you can have the girl that I'm, like, jealous of.
Sure.
You can have the one that I'm envious of. You can have the one that I've been writing against. And I think basically going down to like my summary points here, that, episode 6 being a draft represents conflict. That's why she's not published the story yet, is because she's like not confident with both how it's written in terms of like how the logic error appears in terms of it being a draft copy, but also, maybe there are other reasons like the fact that she doesn't know how to feel about basically letting the man she wants be taken by another woman in her own story. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have like any particular questions on this?
I don't know. I'm just enjoying thinking about it, thinking about how it might work or if it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I obviously don't want to, lay bare my observations on how on earth this would even work, considering that, Battler is dead and all that. But by the premise of your theory, I don't know. It's a fun theory. It definitely does spin around the whole thing with the marriage at the end of EP6. Although obviously I would have equated that within my first reread certainly to the fact that Erica wants to trap Battler within the she wants to like turn his own game against him. Like that's kind of what the whole marriage thing is. Like they even describe the marriage as like. What is it, like the hell cold marriage or the grave cold marriage, something like that. Like they're very much flipping that around with like marriage is supposed to be when you devote yourself to someone forever and it's beautiful, and then Erica's like perverting that completely. In the same way that she perverts his game.
I mean, the whole thing is to me is that I do understand that on the surface level that is directly presented to us, the story canon still should be interpreted that way to an extent. But
Oh, Cannon with the C.
yeah,
Just want to point that out.
but that doesn't mean that, you know, because it has implications on one level, that it shouldn't also have implications on another.
Sure. No, definitely.
Because there are certain things where I feel like Ryukishi has very strongly stuck to the whole Chekhov's gun thing, or Natsui's big fucking rifle, as we dubbed it back in episode 1.
It's coming back. You better believe it.
Like, there are definitely some things that are, you know, less necessary, like, we spoke about in the episode 3 post-edit recap, because that was what we recorded just before this. We were talking about how...
Stop ruining the illusion!
I'm sorry. We were talking about how, like, fight math is, like, it's hammering home how, like, probability is an important factor in Magic.
Yep.
So it definitely has value there. And it also, in, like, Kyrie's case in episode 3, hammers home the significance of, like, what happened to her, which comes up again in this episode. But, you know, everything is written intentionally, it seems.
Yep.
Going back through, I've been able to, in editing...
Fucking Ryukishi.
In editing, I've been able to basically pinpoint every moment and say, this is important for possibly this reason.
Yep.
And there are some choices where, like the wedding, as I said back at the start, you just have to wonder why that was the choice, because there are so many other visual and literary metaphors that you could pick to do, like, trapping someone down forever. Like, we've used the birdcage so many times.
That's Beatrice's thing. You can't put Balor in a birdcage.
Why not, though? They've switched
he's
roles.
not-
That's the whole thing.
But because he's not like the hope that's right next to you. It's not his thing.
I know, but the point
He's the
being
one trying to
basically
grasp-
is
anyway.
I feel like it's an explicit choice. And then I also brought up stuff that I brought up in the episode 6 playthrough about, you know, the Aeneid and how, Augustus was the basically the sponsor that created the Aeneid, which Virgil appears in Dante's Inferno because of, and we have a whole bunch of allusions to the Divine Comedy because of that whole thing.
Yep.
And the thing that I then brought up there was the whole scrapped episode Land of the Golden Witch, talking about how in Land, Vigilia and Erica were meant to be one character, and how it would work if those were both inserts of Hachijo back when, in episodes 3 and 4, she was maybe helping Battler write the stories.
Sure.
So Vigilia was her insert back there, and, you know, there's the whole clue where she's, like, always calling people child, and the only other character that really does that
Child of man.
is Hachijo and Featherin. So I think it makes sense that there's a connection there, and it's actually really interesting to consider that it is those two characters that are, like, the main inserts for Hachijo in the story. I think it makes a lot of sense if you look at it that way. And then even if you go back to the end of episode 3, where Angie meets Burn on a rooftop.
Yeah.
Where do we see Angie in episode 6? In the home where Burn used to be the Miko, supposedly.
Yeah.
Like, I think it makes a lot of sense that that is a magic scene masking the truth of that being when Angie resolved or was invited to go see Hachijo. Because then there's also the whole thing where, like, the memories of the future are hazy, and I wrote a whole bit about, back in this section here, I wrote a whole bit about how, it would make sense that Angie actually went there...
What am I to do?
Angie went there before she went to Najima, and that Hachijo didn't write it in to mask the truth, because what is kind of implied by Okanogi and Amakusa's phone call at the end is that Amakusa saved Angie and then they disappeared off the grid, and that's maybe what's implied by Angie's death in the game record for episode 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like, something that's up in the air, of course.
Yeah, it's definitely up in the air, and I'm interested to see where it comes back in, but the point being that it makes sense to me that the sequence of events where Angie went to Hachijo first is reasonable to assume that that was written in as, like, time travel-y bullshit to mask the truth. You know, if someone was reading this and was like, oh shit, I can track Angie down through this.
Yeah.
So they're, like, masking her actions and masking the invitation through Burn. And I think that makes a lot of sense that way. One of the things that I've spoken a bit about through the playthrough and through the podcasts is that going back to Van Dyne's rules, which I'm really excited. Hopefully we're going to get us some Van Dyne soon.
I need to confirm or deny this.
But it makes the whole Van Dyne rule, which is like the answer should be staring you back in the face in a reread. The way that I have been testing my theories at this point is going back through and seeing if the answers are staring me in the face. And this is one of the ones that I feel not as confident as the meta theory was staring me in the face, but there are still a lot of things where I'm like, this works if that's the truth.
Yeah, maybe. I know.
So yeah, I don't know if I have too much more to say on this. Like, there's not a lot of reasoning so much as there is just taking pot shots and seeing what works. And I'll link this into the description so you can read it. It's not like perfectly written up. Shout out to the Rekenjima forums again for giving me a space to write this all up.
Yay. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of questions for you. I know you literally I just noticed you for it. I have a lot of questions about this, but like, I don't know what to poke on you. I don't know what to poke you with.
Yeah.
At this point.
I wanted to make a video on this because it's like important going forwards, because it's something that will probably be brought up a fair bit, at least when I'm talking about things.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there is a certain validity to this in terms of like it's staring me in the face as I'm rereading it, as I say. But you know, it's mainly just like, well, what if this? What if this? What if this?
I feel you. I've had a similar experience with a certain novel that I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm gonna take shots in the dark and see what happens. And then I called 90% of the story, which is great. But like, it was good fun. It's great fun. Don't tell people not to theory craft. It's the best shit.
And I mean, I said way back at the start here, like, I'm doing this for fun.
Yeah.
Like, to an extent, I do think it works, and I'm proud of myself that I was able to reason something out like this.
Yeah.
But,
it's an answer.
You know.
Don't trample on other people's answers, you dicks.
Don't trample on their questions either.
Don't do that.
Don't trample on people.
Don't touch people with your feet, unless they want to. Unless they ask you to.
Let's not bring that up. I feel uncomfortable now. We're going to stop recording and never speak to each other again.
Oh, no, you can't.
Anyway, this has been a brief one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want more detail, you can go read this.
I'm deflecting. What?
If you have any questions, throw down in the comments. I'd love to talk about it a bit because I had a lot of fun writing this up, and even if by the time this is uploaded, it's been completely disproven, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this is here. You're putting it out there. It's like, this is my thought right now. This is my theory. And then we fucking... we open that cat box and we see what happens.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Episode 7 hype.
Episode 7 hype.
But we got a podcast to record first.
Oh, yeah. Yay! See you guys next time.